I had just gotten a dog and I noticed that my dog has been getting into a lot of things, and so someone suggested for me to see if I should get a dog trainer. So I'm just here to see exactly what you do.
Um, he's 5 months old, you said?
Yes, 5 months old.
Okay.
And he keeps getting into everything and making a mess, and so I'm trying to train him to stay in his appropriate places.
5 months is a natural time for the dogs to be chewing and to be getting into everything. How do you watch him when you're gone? Do you have him in a crate, or do you have a special place for him to be when you're not there? How do you handle that to keep him safe?
Well, I just leave him inside, and when I go out, so I usually just tend to leave him at home. I've had a lot of struggles when he's been at the pound, but it, I just wanted to know what your cost is for training so he can
Well,
be able to stay
a
at
dog that
home.
age, it's natural for them to chew, and just like you wouldn't leave a baby or say a 3 or 4 year old child alone for a while and then come home and expect them to have behaved themselves and not gotten into things. We have the same problem with dogs. When they're puppies, if they're not supervised, then they can get themselves into all kinds of trouble, which usually means chewing on things because he is of an age to chew. And it's not something they do on purpose to make you angry. It's something they do just because it's natural. So you need to find a way of keeping him safe when you're not there. So when you come home, the first thing he sees is not an angry person, because then he may not be happy about you coming home, which adds a different problem. I suggest that you perhaps either get a crate for him so he's safe when you're not there. When you're home, you can tie him to your waist, which sounds funny, but when he's with you, he probably doesn't get into things. And it's a good way to keep him uh, make him understand that you are the one who tells him what to do and where to do it. And when he's tied to you, it keeps him safe, and he can't get into anything. And you just walk around with him tied to you, but obedient.
So, how do you start exactly in getting into the training school? How much does it cost every week? Um, and I had another question. Is it a one-on-one kind of training, or is it a group session?
Well, we have a class that lasts 10 weeks, and it costs $90 for the 10 weeks. Included in that is your equipment, which will be a collar and leash, and a 15-foot lunge line, which is what we do as part of our training on. The classes are about 10 to 12 people in a class, and we try to keep it to an hour, but sometimes it goes over.
Okay. I would like to have an interpreter, not next to me, but preferably next to the trainer. So because it'll be a distraction to be looking at the interpreter if they're next to me instead of next to the teacher. I prefer that.
I have had interpreters in my classes before, and they usually sit to one side and maybe just a tiny bit behind me, so that the class can still see what I do when I demonstrate, but that you could also see them.
All right. Then also, I have a friend who was telling me about that sign language can be used for the dogs, and I would like to incorporate those signs into teaching my dog, like stay and stop and things like that. So, does your school arrange sign language for the dogs?
We can use your own signs, but they have to be signs that we can also use while you're teaching the dog. In other words, some of the signs, for example, sit, which some people use as the sign for sit, you can't do that at the same time you're handling your dog. So you would be, because you need a hand to put on the dog. So we would teach you a different sign to use for sit when you're teaching the sign. But later, if you want to switch, you could do both signs for a